admit it, politics in Malaysia right now is at the level of being toxic. Look at the kind of debates we have in Dewan Rakyat. So I was given a mandate to start talking to the big coalitions, and we spoke to both PH and PN. It was rather unfortunate that PH basically did not respond. It ended up with us officially requesting to be part of Gerakan Nasional. Tun explained to us that GTA no longer exists.
Okay.
So what is now there is Proklamasi Orang Melayu. The approach now is different from GTA in that he's trying to talk to the Malay parties to come together. Being a rice bowl should not necessarily mean staying poor.
Good day, everyone. I'm Zaidi Azmi, and this is Sinar Daily's Top News Podcast. And our guest for this particular episode is essentially someone who needs no introduction. He is what many would deem a political royalty. And of course, with us today, we have Datuk Seri Mukhriz Mahathir, the President of Pejuang, the former Menteri Besar of Kedah, twice, and also the son of former Prime Minister Tun Dr Mahathir. Datuk Seri,
Yes.
welcome.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Datuk Seri, let's cut to the chase.
Sure.
Okay, Tun Mahathir's exit from Pejuang. Okay, it happened because Pejuang decided to cut ties with Gerakan Tanah Air. So consequently, Tun Mahathir decided to leave Pejuang as well. So I know it's been months, but can we revisit that? What happened actually?
Well, I should say that I think the approach we wanted to have going into GE15 was somewhat different on Pejuang alone compared to what GTA was all about. Pejuang felt that we should go in there as a third bloc, not planning to form government on our own, but perhaps we could be a deciding factor when it comes to passing laws and the like. So we would be preferably a significant minority in the Dewan Rakyat. But then when Gerakan Tanah Air was formed, instead of just a number of seats that Pejuang would have contested, we ended up contesting 125 seats. This was quite a lot, you know. I mean, and you can imagine the weight of responsibility on Pejuang to basically promote, fund, and campaign for 125 candidates, and they come from different parties, not all from Pejuang, also representatives from NGOs. So the outcome of all that, I think everyone knows. We lost all of those seats, including Tun Mahathir himself in Langkawi, myself in Jelon, Datuk Amiruddin in Kubang Pasu, and basically everyone. Yeah. And we even lost our deposits. So it indicated to us very clearly that the people still wanted a large coalition, and they picked between PH and PN. So, and due to that, we felt that that formula was not one that was workable, and that we should not continue with it. We should go back to the drawing board. And Pejuang decided through an AGM to
AGM.
withdraw from GTA. So Tun Mahathir felt that GTA was still relevant at the time. He wanted to continue with GTA, and with Pejuang's decision, he decided to leave the party. We at that time had already recommended to him that he should be seen somewhat apolitical, not being a member of any party. He should remain as a statesman because he's been around a long time. He's got vast experience, 22 years, 22 months, people say, as Prime Minister. So with that kind of leverage, I think no one is going to question him about relevancy, you know. He could say anything he wants, and people would still take it seriously. So that was what we recommended. But fortunately now I think he's doing exactly that.
So basically, Tun left Pejuang at Pejuang's own behest. Is that it?
Oh well, we did not push him out, if that's what you mean. we would have rather he could stay at least as an advisor. In fact, we had written to him asking him whether he could remain as an advisor to Pejuang. But he decided to leave the party altogether. So at the same time, we understood what he wanted to champion, which culminated in what we call Proklamasi Orang Melayu. We support that 100%. So our links with him are still very, very strong. And I tell people, especially young people, that if you ever want to learn about the Mahathir way of leadership, Pejuang is the place to be. So that's why we are still growing in numbers from a membership standpoint. And we find a lot of young people still wanting to be a part of Pejuang because they want to know how we look at politics in general and about leadership.
But that is really, like you mentioned before, the attitude by most Malaysian voters, they seem to prefer a strong party, a big party, right? Like you yourself said, we lost perhaps because they only see PH and PN.
Right.
So macam given that circumstances, given that equation, in what way is Pejuang going to position himself in that landscape?
If you look at things, how things are these days, it's a very sorry state that we are in right now.
I agree.
I think Malaysia has got a whole lot more potential. We are literally scraping the bottom of the barrel. I just mentioned this to my people in Pejuang, and it's very sad that we are asked to pick
between the devil and the deep blue sea.
Well, it's very sensitive when we conjure that name. But in Malay we say to choose between the one that is of less mudarat. So when I would have thought that Malaysia has got so much talent, we've got a lot of good people actually. Unfortunately, these kinds of people who not only understand what problems we are faced with, but also have solutions, they won't step up to the plate and be involved in politics because politics has got such a bad name these days. I admit it. Politics in Malaysia right now is at the level of being toxic. Look at the kind of debates we have in Dewan Rakyat, and I think you'll agree with me. And it's not done at the benefit of the people. Rather, it is more about rivalries between two large factions. And when we should be picking the best among the best, right? Why are we not doing that? Instead, we are, as I said, scraping at the bottom of the barrel. We have two large coalitions. Personally, I feel that they are still not the best that we have to offer in the country. Therefore, smaller parties such as us look at building ourselves into a new alternative that could be seen as a group of people who have solutions meant for the country, so that we have a new future. It doesn't mean that we forget history. It's not that we don't take learnings from the past, but rather to look more forward. And we see this trend happening in ASEAN, most recent being in Thailand.
Yes.
Yeah.
But okay, speaking of mudarat, okay. Since you mentioned that mudarat, okay, back then, why did Pejuang attempted to join Perikatan? What was the reason back then?
Okay. We spoke at length with my father, and one of the main issues he brought up was his fear that Malay votes would split, and it has split actually. It's totally disunified, and we have to try and bring it all together again. So we deliberated about this internally. One of the questions was that, okay, do we go into PRN, these state elections, and the next GE16 solo again, knowing full well the results of Johor and GE15, or do we try to be a part of a coalition, be a component party, And we decided that it's just a waste of time going solo because we can guess what the outcome will be. That whole process of contesting for the sake of contesting is just wasteful. And we thought that we should be part of a coalition. That was the decision of the AGM that we held on the 14th of January this year. So I was given a mandate to start talking to the big coalitions, and we spoke to both PH and PN. Not BN for obvious reasons.
I understand.
So it was rather unfortunate that PH basically did not respond. We only managed to meet with mid-level leadership. I had requested an appointment even with Datuk Seri Anwar himself, and I got no response.
Datuk Seri, what were you thinking? You were gonna talk to Datuk Seri Anwar. You the
this
son
was,
of Tun Mahathir.
Yeah,
you
this was
talk with
before.
Anwar.
This, the way I see it, we should try and keep our options open. We may be inclined towards one, but it does not mean that we write off totally the other side. So I wanted to show to our people that we were very open. We gave the opportunity for both sides to present their case, as we present our case about why we should be part of their coalition. So that opportunity was not given to us in PH. But I must say that PN responded rather well. I was able to meet up with Tan Sri Muhyiddin himself. I met with Datuk Seri Azmin Ali. We met several times with Datuk Seri Samsuri, the MB of Terengganu, with Datuk Seri Takiuddin, the Setiausaha Agong of PAS, and also in the end with Datuk Seri Sanusi himself, MB of Kedah. But my request to meet with Tuan Guru Haji Hadi himself was not fulfilled. But still, it ended up with us officially requesting to be part of Perikatan Nasional. And as you know, that official request was rejected rather unofficially because we did not get an official rejection in writing. It was just a statement by the Setiausaha Agong, Datuk Seri Hamzah Zainuddin.
When you met with Tan Sri Muhyiddin, you met with Datuk Seri Samsuri, everyone else, what was their reception? Were they keen or were they?
I thought the discussions were very friendly and cordial. We were discussing about the electorate, the Malay issues and all that, those close to our hearts, and at least I got the agreement that Malay votes should not be split. So we should work together to try and see how to bring together the Malay votes particularly. And I thought that was something that was very optimistic. But that was why we were somewhat disappointed when we got the news through the media that PN had not accepted our application to join them.
That's okay. You talk about the need for not wanting the Malay votes to be split, but why did you left GTA? Because GTA punya main struggle, dia punya main mission was, as I recall, was for Malay unification. So why can't you be on that ship?
The different approach that GTA had at the time was that the Malays should unify under GTA. You see, so I think that was a hard sell. At that time, we already thought that's going to be daunting. That was going to be rather challenging because you already have Perikatan Nasional on one side, then you have Barisan Nasional with UMNO on the other side. And PH also had certain Malay support. So to expect a totally new coalition that didn't even exist a year before GE15 to be able to garner support from among the Malays at the expense of the others was rather far-fetched. But we thought that, okay, let's just give it a try. And then the outcome was very clear. So the outcome of GE15 basically confirmed what we thought from the Johor state elections. So twice already we got the same results. So I was not about to repeat the same mistake. So I said 3 times strike and we are out, you know. so I said let's not repeat this. Let's move, take learnings from that event and do something else. So GTA wanted to continue with that course. That's why we thought that okay, we had enough of that, so we wanted to be not be part of that anymore.
What about the president? I mean, last week Tun Mahathir wore a past vest in Kelantan, which is which to me was like, oh wow, I grew up in the 90s and I know the politics back then. It was like, oh, it's just some sort of a multiverse of madness. What do you think of that? So I mean, Tun is the front man for GTA, right? So right now it seems that GTA is warming up.
No, Tun explained to us that GTA no longer exists.
Okay.
So what is now there is Proklamasi Orang Melayu. Okay, so the approach now is different from GTA in that he's trying to talk to the Malay parties to come together. So it is not just the smaller parties like us, Pejuang, Putra, Berjasa, and the Malay NGOs, which was the original GTA, but now with Perikatan Nasional, which includes PAS and Bersatu. You know, so it's a different approach, more holistic, and more practical, I would think, because we are not telling people to vote for us and not vote for Perikatan Nasional, for example. We are now saying that we are all going to be part of a bigger movement. And we might, in the end, use the PN logo. I mean, this was what was this thought of before this. So that should be enough to consolidate the Malay votes.
What is so wrong? I mean, I have my non-Malay friends. They often ask me, what is so wrong with Malays being divided, being fractious? Because, you know, isn't that freedom to be in association? I mean, why must Malay has this some sort of macam herd mentality that they need to bundle up together?
I don't think it's just the Malays. It's just the way politics has been practiced in this country for a long time. If you recall, the first party was UMNO, that was Malay, and then MCA, MIC were Chinese and Indian, and then only later do you see so-called multiracial parties, which had certain races dominating in each of these parties. I think the best formula that the country has ever had was BN, you know, during the heydays, especially during my father's time, I should say, when it was a coalition of parties representing different ethnic groups, dominated by UMNO, which was a Malay party. So the government that was formed after elections was multiracial. There was very good representation by all the races and in the government. So the voice of each ethnic group was heard in cabinet, and you had very prominent leaders like Datuk Seri Sami Velu. You had Datuk Seri Ling Long Sek. You know, I mean, these are prominent leaders in their own right. I mean, and they represented everyone. They were not just their own ethnic groups, right? So, but when they come together in BN, I thought that was the best formula. Unfortunately, those days are gone. Now you find more fractious coalitions, small majorities. So a government's majority is always under threat. This present government claims to have a more comfortable majority compared to, say, the PN one or the one that was led by Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri. But still, we hear about potential
shake-ups.
threats, shake-ups again. So I don't know whether this is true or not. But the politics still permeates our daily lives as it shouldn't be, actually.
That's right. Okay, I'm trying to understand. Okay, what do you think of the Malays themselves, their psyche? Because as it is, people are seeing the Malays as someone yang macam, okay, can't you guys make up your mind which party do you guys want to govern the country? Because as it is, we have PH, and then the Malays did not like that, and then it fell down. Then we have Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin punya government, and then Ismail Sabri's, and now Datuk Sri Anwar. So yes, people are seeing the Malays as they have some sort of inability to make up their mind.
I think it's a little bit unfair to say that they are finicky or anything like that, indecisive. It's just that the parties that talk to them, they themselves come with all kinds of problems. I mean, if we before this felt that UMNO was the one that will champion all Malay causes, right? And then it just went kleptocratic, we didn't expect that, I would think, and suddenly you see now Malays totally rejecting UMNO. I'm going to I suspect this is going to happen in these state elections, or again, and so we've written off. I would say a majority of Malays have written off UMNO, and then we look at the other options. Each of them have got their own set of problems. So there is no one party that they can really have hopes in, that thinks about the future, thinks about Malay interests, but never at the expense of others, right? I feel that it's not a problem with the Malays themselves. It's a problem with the political parties that basically haven't got their act together. Which opens the opportunity for smaller, newer parties with less or no baggage. Okay, so Pejuang, I must say, I'm not lobbying because we're not contesting in these state elections anyway. No, we're not. We already announced that, so it's a decision. We're going to stick by the decision. So we are saying that we have proven that we stick to our principles. Once we say something, we don't change. We want a government that is run by Malays, but with the cooperation of other races. So we hope that this is not seen as being racial. It's just reflective of the composition of the population. It just so happens that the Malays are majority, and so it would be a given that a government that is majority Malay should lead the nation. But again, as I said, going by the federal constitution, never at the expense of the other races. It's together with them. But at the same time, we need this government to be clean. I mean, why is it so difficult to demand that? Integrity should be at the utmost importance, right? I mean, you may be smart, you may know how to run government, you may have sincerity, but if you don't have integrity, none of that is going to work. And I think we've seen that already. We've had a kleptocratic government during Datuk Seri Najib's time, and we are still paying for it. I mean, he may come out of jail 12 years from now, but we'll still not be finished paying that debt. So that should be something that we learn from and never repeat again.
Dr. Sri, when you talk about state polls and everything, aren't you losing out? Because politics is a game of optics and numbers. So if you sit out of this coming state poll, then there is no optic. When you have no optic, of course, by not participating, you probably will have no numbers.
Right.
So what's up with that?
Well, media such as yourself will have to help. I mean, this is a role that you should play. Stepping back one step does not mean we're going to be in reverse forever. We hope to take one step back, but many steps forward in the coming years, and we want to take this time to build up the party in the right way, build up a culture within the party that could reflect on society, to show that there is another way. There are too many things that need to be changed in this country. One of which is this mindset that a government only thinks about 5-year cycles. And because of that, no government that we've seen, except for during my father's time, I still have to say this, and it sounds like I'm.
Sounds weird.
It sounds weird, right? But then show me another option. I mean, during his time, he had Vision 2020. That was 30-year plan. He had even Look East policy was a 30-year plan, and since then we have never had a plan that long. And 30 years isn't very long. Okay, so after him has always been a cycle of only 5 years. And the funny thing about it is, it's not just between different governments. I mean, so you have a PH Perpaduan government now.
We have Abah, we have Madani.
Exactly. So every time you have a new prime minister, he changes and he tries to unravel what was done by the previous government, even when the previous preceding government was from the same party. Why is that? I mean, now maybe it is acceptable or understandable that it is a totally different party. We have a PH government, previous to this was a PN government, so PH wants to basically write off everything that PN did before this. But any country should be on a learning curve, okay? You plan something, it takes years to implement. I know this because I was an MB in Kedah for some time, and I never finished my term. I'm bitter about that because I had a lot of plans. I launched those plans, but I never got to see it through. You see, and then you see a new government coming in, whether it was Datuk Seri Ahmad Bashar ke, and then Datuk Seri Sanusi ke, unraveling what was done before this, even if it was a good idea. During my time, I took over from almarhum Datuk Seri Ustaz Azizat. Okay. There were a number of things that he did good. I continued. One of the things that he did, which I really respected, was that he used Mentalun, which was the residence of the Menteri Besar, every Saturday for kuliah agama. And this was a really high level kuliah. I mean, people from Perlis and Penang would come. There would be about 700 people in that one, and the quality of the teaching was so high that I thought I had to continue with it. You know, I didn't want just because we were a BN government taking over from PAS, we would stop that just because it's a different government, different MB and all that. And the response was so good. I mean, I would expect that maybe 90% of those who participated were still PAS members when we were running it. But I felt if it's a good thing, why do we need to stop it? You know, I mean, if you have some better ideas, okay, never mind. You know,
I thought you were gonna say Aman Central.
No. Yeah, that came also later. In fact, yeah.
Okay, that's three. Okay, let's talk about your ouster, SMB Kedah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're twice ousted. Okay,
Right.
when the second one happened,
Yeah.
okay, in his podcast, Kedah MB, current Kedah MB, I know caretaker MB, Sanusi, Datuk Seri Sanusi said that he approached you. He said that if you were supportive of PN, we're gonna back you up. You don't need to step down. You can continue your tenure as MB. So why he said that you kept quiet for a day, and after that you decided to relinquish your post. Was that true?
Okay, so I have a different recollection of that conversation.
Okay.
I was in KL, and we knew that a number of MPs from Bersatu followed the Azmin 10 from PKR to leave PH and form a new coalition with UMNO and PAS at the time, right? So at the federal level, 6 of us from Bersatu decided we were not going to go with them. At the federal level, they even offered Tun Mahathir to continue as Prime Minister under the new government, and he said no because we won the elections and with PH. We formed cabinet with PH. We were not going to betray them. Of course, later PH didn't acknowledge that, but that's okay. There's another story. But then going back to Kedah, Datuk Seri Sanusi with the Suruhanjaya PAS Kedah came to see me in Mentalun, and he told me that they had their Majlis Shura, I think, PAS meeting, and they had decided that in Kedah they won't do anything to change the government, despite the fact that PAS has 15 seats. Right? So I said, why is that? I was curious, and they said that no, the top leadership of PAS has decided that they were not going to push for a change in government in the state. I can continue, and the condition that they told me was that they wanted additional budget for the opposition adons. Okay. So we were the first government, PH state government, to provide a budget for opposition adons. We allocated 70,000 ringgit for each of the adons per year. Right? Yeah. So he asked me whether we could up it by another 100,000, and I said okay, 170,000. I said I can't make a decision like that, but I would. Easy for me just to go into EXCO meeting. I would table it, and then we'll see what EXCO says, and I'll talk to SS whether we have budget and things like that. And
did you manage to table it?
Yes, we tabled it. EXCO approved it. so I called him back and I said, okay, we got it approved. So you got your budget. So as far as but being careful, I called up Datuk Seri Takiuddin, I called up Datuk Seri Samsuri just to check was this actually the decision of PAS or not, or was he just telling me something, So I told him I would check. I told Datuk Seri Sanusi, I'm going to talk to your superiors also. So he knew. I mean, I was not trying to go behind his back, and it was not in any way trying to be insulting to him. It's just that it's not that I didn't want to take his word for it. But I thought I better check with. I'm in good terms with his superiors also, and they confirmed. They said the same thing, that PAS decision was not to change the government in the state, and I can proceed. But there may be conditions. There may be some requests made by the Kedah PAS, and I was to look into that. And I said, okay, we agreed to it already. But then. As you might know, there was a letter from the present speaker of Dewan Rakyat, is it Tan Sri now? Tan Sri Johari Abdul. Yeah. And he wrote to the Kedah State Secretary saying that 7 PKR adons, ironically, including 2 or 3 who are actually from Azmin's faction, were withdrawing support from me as MB. So with that 7, I would have already been out. So that triggered it. So ironically, I was stabbed behind by PKR, not from PAS.
So it wasn't PAS, it was PKR.
It was PKR who actually initiated it. I see. And then, of course, among those 7, it split up because some stayed in PKR, some went with Azmin, and then eventually became Bersatu members. So they went with the Perikatan Nasional thing. So by then, I lost the majority. So I don't recall Datuk Seri Sanusi telling me that you need to support Tan Sri Muhyiddin as Prime Minister and you will remain as Menteri Besar, because that would have been unthinkable, right? Because it would mean that he's trying to tell me that I should abandon my father, who's also the MP of Langkawi, and there's just no way that would happen.
Datuk Seri, I mean, let's talk about Kedah state pools, the coming state pools. Why do you think Sanusi is such a phenomena among orang-orang Kedah sekarang ni? Apa pasal ni? Yang macam lain macam ni dia punya ni. Syok depa kat dia ni.
Saya ingat Kedah ni yalah dia kena ada orang yang serasi dan yang sehati sejiwa katakan dengan sentimen orang Kedah. Jadi orang Kedah ni dia jenis yang peramah, tapi ada waktu-waktu tertentu di mana dia ada cara dia sendiri, dia tak boleh disamakan dengan negeri-negeri lain. Dan walaupun negeri jiran macam Pulau Pinang jauh sekali lah, dengan Perak, dengan Perlis pun lain. Kami Kedah is Kedah lah kan. Jadi bila ada sentimen macam rebel, kadang-kadang tu rebel without a cause pun ada jugalah kan. Jadi orang tertarik dengan cara tu. Saya mengaku yang cara saya memang berbeza. Saya cuba nak bawa satu pembaharuan kepada politik di Kedah, terutamanya cara pentadbiran kerajaan Kedah. Tapi saya tahu bahawa kalau saya nak buat tu, dia kena ambil satu jangka masa yang panjang. Dan malangnya saya tak sempat habis tempoh tu.
So, just now you mentioned that you're still kind of bitter about not being able to finish 2 of your 10 years.
Yeah.
So, do you have any plan to make a comeback as Kedah MB?
Well,
not now, but maybe in the future.
The way I see it right now, I think my stint in Kedah state politics is over. Twice over now I've been done in. Not by the people, because each time I go to the people for support, they give it to me, except for the last general elections. And I understand that one. There's a wave supporting PN, so we were at opposing ends with that. So there was just no way we could get anything in GE15. But then twice I basically went to the rakyat in Kedah and gave them a new proposition. Once I was leading Barisan Nasional to try and defeat the incumbent past government, and we succeeded. And second was when I led the PH state government to defeat the incumbent BN government. And both times we succeeded. The rakyat felt that our proposition was a better one. So I think that now's the time for us to look for young leaders, to try and nurture them, educate them about politics, help them to look forward. How do we plan a state government? What needs to be in place? What needs to be changed? And I think that would be Pejuang's job. We are very serious about this. That we want to be kilang, that produces young Malay leaders.
That's really okay. Speaking of, producing new leaders. Okay, the thing about Kedah that I've seen based on my observation is that, contohlah kita ambil Pakatan. Okay, can you imagine? To me, Sanusi's growing club phenomenally was partly due to PH as well, because they did not groom anyone in Kedah, in PH Kedah, to be a spoiler to Sanusi, to rival Sanusi. And right now, it seems that Kedah only has Sanusi to offer to its people.
I think, knowing them personally, I would think that PH Kedah does have a number of people, maybe a handful, that could be leaders, could be real leaders for the state. Their problem is once they went to bed with UMNO. That's how I see it. Because we went into GE15 on opposing sides. I mean, PH was opposing BN, and then a lot of the campaign was talking about kleptocracy and all that. So when they went 180-degree opposite from what they promised in the elections, respect for PH itself, I think, declined to a significant extent. So that's why my prediction is that they are not going to do, PH is not going to do well with BN in Kedah, and maybe the same in other states as well.
We're nearing the end, but I have one more last question.
Sure.
Okay, it's about the state of Kedah itself. Okay, in all of its, since previously, since everyone know Kedah, the direction for the state, especially in terms of economic growth, seems to center towards becoming the rice bowl of the nation. We were designated as that. So, do you think that has pretty much influenced the economic rate of Kedah, whereby some are saying that Kedah could have potentially be richer than it could if it had not only been designated as the nation's rice bowl.
So there are two aspects of that. One is being a rice bowl should not necessarily mean staying poor. Okay, so if a state like Kedah is designated the state that will provide food security, you need to compensate then for that. It's not fair to Kedah that 270,000 hectares of land, land which could have been developed into industrial estates and the like, is reserved for lakes, dams, rivers, forest reserve, paddy land, and not be developed purely so that we could produce rice for us to eat. And at the same time, population is growing. Kedah used to produce 70% of the rice that is consumed in the country. Now it's only about 35 or 40%. We are now a net importer of rice. And the imports can sometimes be cheaper than what we produce locally. And the worst thing about it is that farmers are poor. You look at Japan, the rice farmers are rich. They are not only rich, they are a political force. They decide who becomes government. Okay?
Because we have too many smallholders.
Yeah, so the system needs to be revamped. I agree with that. So now the other thing is, Kedah has also proven that from an agrarian state, moving into high-tech, we can do that successfully. We did that in Kulim High-Tech Park. When I was in MITI, KHTP, Kulim High-Tech Park, was considered the best industrial park we have in the country. Every time we go overseas to promote FDIs, we talk about Kulim High-Tech Park. So the amount of money, if I'm not mistaken, 600 million ringgit, first spent by federal government to set up Kulim High-Tech Park, was paid over by taxes many times over. There's been, I think, about 31 billion ringgit now spent in that park. 26,000 jobs. The salary was, I think, on average about 5,600 ringgit. 80% were Kedahans, So it was a good thing. So why are we not doing more of that? So and then Kedah will be richer.
Okay, Datuk Seri, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Everyone, that was Sinar Daily's Top News Podcast. I'm Zaidi Azmi, and I'll see you again.